The anger of these VW workers is clear. They fear their jobs are at risk.
German farmers have been demonstrating against the slashing of subsidies for days now.
Germany, a country once synonymous with prosperity, innovation, and social harmony, is now facing significant economic challenges. Protests, strikes, and rising living costs have left many questioning whether the foundation of Europe's largest economy is beginning to crack. But what's really happening behind the headlines? Is Germany, one of the world's wealthiest nations, on the verge of a crisis? Let's take a closer look at the reality of life in Germany today. From rising poverty rates to the impact of inflation, let's uncover the truth behind the statistics. Germany's economic landscape has seen a significant transformation in recent years. For much of its post-war history, the country enjoyed steady growth, rising wages, and a strong reputation for industrial excellence. The Made in Germany label became a global symbol of quality and innovation. But fast forward to today, and the story is quite different. A combination of global and domestic factors has slowed Germany's growth. Stagnation has replaced the once consistent rise in GDP, while social discontent has taken center stage. Earlier this year, we witnessed a wave of protests across the nation. Farmers blocked city streets with tractors, angry over budget cuts that threatened their livelihoods. Not long after, train engineers, public transit workers, and truck drivers followed suit, striking for better wages and working conditions. These protests are not isolated events. They're a reflection of deeper economic frustrations brewing across the country. The rise in inflation has also played a significant role. Everyday essentials like food and energy are becoming more expensive, making it harder for families to make ends meet. While Germany remains one of the world's richest countries, the reality is that more and more people are finding themselves at risk of poverty. Economic pressures are intensifying, and the once solid social fabric is starting to show signs of strain. So, what does poverty really look like in Germany today? It might surprise you to learn that while Germany remains one of the world's wealthiest nations, the gap between rich and poor is widening, and a growing number of citizens are feeling the strain. But poverty here doesn't mean starvation or homelessness on a massive scale. Instead, it's what's called relative poverty, a condition where people have significantly less income and resources compared to the average in society, making it difficult to maintain an acceptable standard of living. According to the Federal Statistical Office, about 14.4% of Germany's population, around 12 million people, are considered at risk of poverty. These are individuals who earn less than 60% of the median income. The highest poverty rates are found in regions like Bremen, North Rhine-Westphalia, and Saxony-Anhalt. But this issue isn't limited to just a few areas. In 2022, around 6.1% of the population was also experiencing significant material deprivation, meaning they couldn't afford basic necessities such as heating, proper meals, or social participation. What's more alarming is that certain groups are disproportionately affected. Students, single-parent households, and the elderly, especially women, are struggling to make ends meet. Despite Germany's robust social welfare system, inflation and rising costs are pushing more people toward financial insecurity.
This is the queue at a food bank in West Berlin. Every Wednesday it provides the most needy people with enough supplies to get by.
With the food prices going so high, it's either spending 2 or 3 times on the amount of food, or buying the amount that I could afford, and then we have to eat less food. So mainly
Inflation is hitting Germany hard, and it's squeezing the middle class in ways that haven't been seen in decades. Prices for basic goods like bread, milk, fruits, and vegetables have surged over 12% in just 2 years. And while wages have risen slightly, it hasn't been enough to keep up with the skyrocketing costs of living. For many middle-class families, this means stretching their budgets further than ever before, often dipping into savings just to make ends meet. Even with a full-time job, many Germans find themselves unable to live comfortably. The increase in the minimum wage has been swallowed up by inflation, leaving workers no better off. For instance, a single person working 40 hours a week at minimum wage earns about €1,500 per month after taxes, which is nominally above the poverty line, but barely enough to cover rent and basic expenses in many cities. This middle-class squeeze is becoming a serious concern. Many who once felt financially stable are now grappling with rising costs and stagnant wages. As inflation continues to bite, the middle class is being pushed closer to the edge, heightening economic anxiety across the country. As inflation squeezes the middle class, another pressing issue is becoming even more apparent: wealth inequality in Germany. Despite being one of the world's richest nations, wealth is increasingly concentrated in the hands of a few, while a large portion of the population struggles to build financial security. According to a 2021 survey by the Bundesbank, the top 10% of German households control over half of the country's wealth, with net assets exceeding €725,000. In contrast, the bottom 40% of households have net assets of only €44,000 or less. This disparity is stark, and it reflects a broader trend that's dividing the nation economically. For many, homeownership is out of reach. Less than half of all German households own property, meaning they haven't benefited from soaring real estate prices in recent years. Meanwhile, rent prices continue to rise, adding pressure to those already struggling to make ends meet. For renters, the median wealth is just €16,000, underscoring the financial vulnerability of a large segment of the population. Wealth inequality also affects the middle class, which is seeing its financial stability erode. The median household holds just over €107,000 in assets, putting them on par with households in Greece, a country with significantly higher unemployment and lower wages. As wealth continues to accumulate at the top, it fuels social and political tensions, leaving many Germans feeling left behind. The middle class, once the bedrock of Germany's economy, is now facing growing financial uncertainty. Rising inflation, stagnant wages, and increasing living costs are placing significant pressure on families who previously felt economically secure. This middle-class squeeze is creating a new reality where financial stability is harder to maintain, even for those with steady jobs. For many middle-class households, the cost of living is outpacing wage growth. Essentials like groceries, utilities, and transportation have become increasingly expensive. Rent prices have also surged, especially in major cities like Berlin, Munich, and Hamburg, where housing shortages push costs even higher. As a result, many families are struggling to cover monthly expenses, let alone save for the future. One of the most troubling trends is that even dual-income households, once considered a marker of middle-class comfort, are now finding it difficult to make ends meet. With inflation eroding purchasing power, families are forced to make tough decisions about their spending. For some, this means cutting back on discretionary expenses, while others dip into savings or rely on credit to get by. The middle class's financial security is further undermined by rising interest rates, which increase the cost of borrowing for mortgages, loans, and other essentials. This has made it harder for families to invest in property or other long-term assets, widening the wealth gap between property owners and renters. Germany's pension system is a cornerstone of the country's social safety net, but it presents a unique dynamic when it comes to wealth accumulation and retirement security. The system operates on a pay-as-you-go model, where current workers fund the pensions of retirees. This approach has long been praised for ensuring a decent retirement income for those who have worked most of their lives. However, it also has its drawbacks, particularly when it comes to wealth inequality. Unlike other countries where retirement savings are often tied to investments, such as 401k plans in the United States, the German pension system doesn't accumulate capital assets that individuals can pass on or use as financial leverage. As a result, many Germans, especially retirees, appear poorer on paper compared to their counterparts in countries where pensions are more investment-based. Even though German pensions often provide sufficient income, these funds are not counted as personal wealth in traditional financial statistics. This creates a paradox. While retirees in Germany may enjoy a relatively stable income, they lack the assets and capital that would reflect greater personal wealth in financial surveys. Women are particularly affected, as they are more likely to have worked part-time and earned lower wages, leading to smaller pensions. Furthermore, the growing aging population puts additional strain on the system. By 2036, it's estimated that 20% of Germans will be at risk of elderly poverty, making pension reform a critical issue in addressing future economic challenges.
Rising living costs, scarce housing, and rising prices are hitting German families hard. When the charity The Ark was founded almost 30 years ago, 1.2 million children faced poverty in Germany. Despite a decrease in births, this number has tripled to more than 3 million since then.
After examining Germany's economic shift, the growing wealth inequality, the middle-class squeeze, and the challenges within the pension system, it raises a critical question. Should Germans be angry? The short answer is yes. Across various segments of society, from workers to retirees, economic frustrations are mounting, and for good reason. The widening gap between the wealthy elite and the rest of the population is driving a sense of injustice. While the rich benefit from tax breaks and investment opportunities, the middle and working classes face rising living costs, stagnant wages, and increasing financial strain. Even those who work full-time or multiple jobs struggle to achieve the economic security that previous generations took for granted. Pensions, though reliable, offer little in terms of wealth accumulation, and inflation is eroding the value of salaries, savings, and purchasing power. This economic imbalance has led to a growing sense of dissatisfaction, especially as younger generations face limited opportunities for upward mobility and homeownership. Anger, however, can also be a catalyst for change. As public frustration grows, it puts pressure on policymakers to address these deep-seated issues. Thank you for watching and sticking with us through this deep dive into the complex economic landscape of Germany. If you're watching this from Germany, or if you're experiencing similar issues elsewhere, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. How do these economic realities affect you, your family, or your community? And what do you think needs to change? If you found this video informative, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I've got plenty more content on global economic issues coming your way soon. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and let's keep pushing for a more equitable future together. Cheers!